Alberta issues in the national spotlight as the Prime Minister chimes in on the Ottawa-Alberta divide. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
All the news you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Dealing with separatists, a massive data breach, and disputes over carbon taxes and carbon storage. There are still many fault lines in Ottawa's relationship with Alberta. This week, the leading separatist group in Alberta said it reached the signature threshold to have the matter of Alberta's independence put to the voters in a referendum this fall. Prime Minister Mark Carney weighed in on that issue yesterday during his announcement that Louise Arbour will be Canada's next Governor General. Mr. Carney suggested his government on the Alberta situation will have a role to play.
There's the rule of law, there's the Clarity Act, which has been opined upon by the Supreme Court, not at the same time when Madame Arbour was sitting on the Supreme Court, but has been the judgment passed there, and any referenda in any part of Canada need to be consistent with that. As you know as well, there's a judicial challenge separately but relatedly by Indigenous nations in Alberta regarding the question. So those processes have to be followed through. But if you bring it into, so I'm observing that because of the solemnity of the moment that we're observing today and celebrating today. But if you bring it into my day-to-day responsibilities and those of the government, it's to continue to act as we have from the start, which is in the spirit of cooperative federalism, making the country work, making it work for Albertans, making it work for Indigenous peoples, making it work for all Canadians.
The Clarity Act was passed by the Liberal government of the day following the near defeat of the Federalist cause in the 1995 referendum in Quebec. It says the federal government will only negotiate with a province on separation if the referendum question is clear and produces a clear majority. It also gives the House of Commons the power to decide whether both the question and the result meet that so-called clarity test. When Mr. Carney was asked if he plans to bring up Alberta separation with Premier Danielle Smith this week when the Premier is in Ottawa, Mr. Carney didn't answer the question.
Premier Smith is in town later this week for the Canada Strong and Free conference. Do you have plans to meet with her and discuss the possible upcoming referendum?
That's funny. I thought she was in town to meet me because, yes, there are plans to meet. And if that's good, if she's here, she can take in other activities. But I'm sure the highlight of her visit to the great city of Ottawa will be a side visit to Nepean, my constituency, but also we're having a meeting that's been settled. I can't remember if it's Thursday afternoon or Friday morning, but it's been arranged. I very much look forward to seeing
Will
her.
Referendum talk be on the agenda for you?
That was your follow-up.
The Prime Minister also offered comments recently on another growing controversy in Alberta related to the separatist cause. Mr. Carney called a massive data breach that saw the Alberta voters list leaked to a pro-separatist group deeply concerning. And he supported investigations by Elections Alberta and the RCMP. Elections Canada is investigating the Centurion Project and its use of the list that has the personal information of almost 3 million Alberta voters. The leader of the Alberta NDP, Naheed Nenshi, called it one of the worst breaches of personal data in Canadian history.
The situation is serious. It demands clear leadership, it demands transparency, and it demands action from this government. But all we've heard from this government is 74 words. 74 words that can be summarized as nothing to see here, and if there is something, it wasn't our fault. Today in question period, the Premier said that the government is not going to do anything. They're going to let Elections Alberta investigate, the very same Elections Alberta that they have defunded and defanged, that they've taken away the investigative ability of Elections Alberta to do the work. But here's the thing. There will be a referendum in 5 months. There'll be an election within the next 17 months. The Premier implied today that Elections Alberta has 2 years to do an investigation. Does that mean she's not going to put the referendum on the ballot for 2 years until her government is done?
Keith Brownsey is a professor of political science at Mount Royal University in Calgary. He says there needs to be a public inquiry into this data breach because it calls into question how the separatists were able to gather so many signatures during its petition drive.
There was this massive breach of, 2.9 million plus Alberta voters. And that was sent out into the public. It's in the cyber world right now. And it really calls into question the signatures on the current petition. Are they valid? Or are their names just placed there by the pro-separatist groups? We don't know any of the answers to those questions. That will have to be asked. And the only solution to this, I see, is a full-blown public inquiry, not even at the provincial level, but at the national level on issues such as cybersecurity and foreign interference in Canadian elections.
And then there's the MOU, the makings of a deal between Ottawa and Alberta on energy projects like a pipeline from Alberta to BC. For that to happen, Alberta has to commit to the so-called Pathways project for carbon capture and storage and agree to increase its industrial carbon tax to $130 a ton. But according to reports, the oil industry is backtracking on its commitment to the carbon capture and storage project, and the Alberta and federal governments can't seem to agree on a timeline for raising the industrial carbon tax. For the leader of the Conservative Party, it's all a waste of time. This is Pierre Poilievre.
In fact, after a year of being Prime Minister, promising to build at unprecedented speeds, he was asked last week if he even supports ever building a pipeline to the Pacific, and his response was, so all of that lines up to it's more likely than not, which means more probable than possible, but none of that is to say certain, still a lot of work to be done. End quote. Mr. Speaker, it's like a riddle from Dr. Seuss. So how much will be the cost of green eggs and ham next year?
We will have more on the situation in Alberta coming up here on News Radio. Naheed Nenshi will join us. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
There are many important issues to talk about with our next guest, from a massive data breach of voter information to Alberta's relationship with Ottawa. Naheed Nenshi is the leader of the Alberta NDP. Yes, the Alberta NDP. Thanks for pointing that out, everyone. How are you, Naheed Nenshi? Good to hear from you.
It's great to be on, Rob. I kind of laughed when I heard that, too. I was like, well, she has a much nicer office than I do, but I think it's a bit of a demotion.
Fighting the same fight, too, I suppose. But look, let's launch right into it. An Alberta separatist group called the Centurion Project managed to get its hands on the voters list and post the database online. It has the personal information of millions of people in Alberta, names, addresses, phone numbers. It was ordered by a court to take it down, but the cat is out of the bag now. Your party claims people with the UCP attended an online meeting hosted by this group, were members of the group, were shown how to use this information, search for people like former Premier Jason Kenney. There are investigations underway. What do you think should happen now?
Well, let's back up a little bit so people understand what's happened here. You know, there have been probably for 6 or 7 weeks now, people have been talking about this thing. There was a complaint to Elections Alberta that we learned about in early April. Elections Alberta chose not to investigate, meaning that this information was out there for people for over a month. We learned about it. There was a meeting on April 16th. We learned about it very early the next morning and immediately called the cops and said, you know, whether this is elections data or data from another source, it's out there on the web for any bad actor to be able to see. And that's just not right. You know, if we're talking about survivors of abuse or police officers or judges or even journalists, now their information is completely out there. About 10 days ago, Elections Alberta confirmed that this was true, got an injunction, got the thing taken down, but it had been out there for a long time. As you say, the cat was out of the bag. And what we learned yesterday is that at least one senior member of the Premier's staff was on that call on April 16th. So he sat there and watched former Premier Jason Kenney's information be shared with every Tom, Dick, and Harry on this call who were shown how to access this information. And the Premier yesterday in question period said she had no idea that this had happened, but her party later confirmed that it in fact had. And so we're expected to believe that this guy sat there while Jason Kenney's information was doxed and kind of went, no worries, no problem. Didn't alert the authorities, didn't call the cops, and according to the Premier, didn't even tell his boss that this was going on. It's hard for me to believe that that's true, but maybe it is. Maybe that's just how the UCP does business. But the problem here is that a lot of people are now at personal risk of their safety, but also every single Albertan is at risk of having their identity stolen. And the government is just saying nothing to see here and nothing to do with us. And I think everyone should be concerned about that.
Okay, so what do you think should happen that isn't happening now?
I think there's three things that need to happen. Number one, and I'll go from the easiest to the hardest, shall we? Number one is we've got to reach out to Albertans and tell them how they can protect their data now. The government is not pretending this is not a big deal, but every single Albertan who's a Canadian citizen over 18 is now at risk of identity theft. And so we've got to think about, when your credit card gets compromised, the bank gives you a whole bunch of options, a whole bunch of things to do to protect your identity. We have to think about quickly how to do that on a big scale, let people know what they need to do to put alerts on their credit reports and all those things. That's easy. The second is, look, the Premier's got to come clean. I've been standing opposite her in question period for a year now, and her answer is always the same. I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know about this fraud. I didn't know about this abuse. I didn't know about this corruption. I didn't know that one of my staff members has been using theoretically independent commission report maps on the electoral boundaries for his own political benefit. I didn't know that my staff attends these meetings. I didn't know that people's data was being breached. So the Premier's got to come clean. One of two things is going on here, and there are only two options. Either she really didn't know, which means she's not running the government. And so I think Albertans are allowed to ask, so who's actually running the government here? Who's keeping her in the dark? Or number two, she did know, and she thought it was all okay. And Albertans deserve to know either way. The third thing is the hardest thing, which is one of the leaders of the separatist movement, and we now know, tweeted on March 24th, hey, all the canvassers who are getting signatures for the referendum, go sign up with the Centurion Project and get yourself 1,000 more names. And what did he mean by that? And what we know is that this database gives you all the information you need to frankly forge signatures on petitions. We don't know if that happened, but we know that all the ingredients were there for that to happen. And quite frankly, Rob, if I'm, to the Alberta Separatists volunteers, I say, look, I don't agree with you on Canada and on the benefits of Canada, but I know you love Alberta as much as I do, and I know you busted your butt and you stood out there in the cold to collect signatures, you talked to your neighbors, you put yourself at risk to get involved in the political process, and the leaders of your process were engaged in this kind of shady behavior and can put the entire thing at risk. You have every right to be mad about that. But ultimately, Albertans also need to say, are these petitions legitimate? Are these signatures legitimate? Did they meet their threshold, the threshold that the Premier lowered for them to get a referendum? And will a referendum now be legitimate? Will any election be legitimate with this data out there? This is a big problem, and we have to figure out how to solve it. But to do that, we have to admit that this has happened and this is a problem.
Okay. Naheed Nenshi with us, the leader of the Alberta NDP. A few more minutes with him when we return to News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Returns with Naheed Nenshi, the leader of the Alberta NDP, here for a few more minutes. Mr. Nenshi, Prime Minister Carney yesterday in Ottawa said that any referendum in Alberta will need to comply with the Clarity Act, put in place by the Liberal government in Ottawa after the 95 referendum in Quebec. What do you think of that assertion from the Prime Minister?
Well, he is, of course, correct. That is the law. And as much as Danielle Smith and the UCP government in Alberta like to pretend that the law doesn't apply to them, it is, in fact, the law. And one of the challenges that we've had is the government has been pandering to the separatists. They reduced the threshold for the number of signatures required, a judge ruled that the question the separatists were petitioning on is in fact unconstitutional. And the government changed the law to allow for unconstitutional referendums to have petitions on them. Now, they've said a number of times that they will not allow an unconstitutional referendum to stand while they know that the question that people were signing the petition on is unconstitutional. But they've never said what their plan is, how they're going to craft a question that actually passes both the constitutional test, but also the test of the Clarity Act. And the Prime Minister, in reminding them today that if they really want a referendum as early as this fall, they actually have to get sign-off from the federal government on the question to be asked. Well, that's actually the law. And it seems that the government has just been making this up as they go along. They've been using Canada as their own plaything, pandering to separatists. You know, the Premier admitted last summer when she was asked, you know, why are you pandering to separatists? She didn't say because Alberta has a raw deal, because this is a way to get the attention of Ottawa. She actually said, because if I don't, my party will split and I'll lose the next election. So they're playing with the separatists, being unclear on their position on Canada for their own political survival. And I think all Canadians deserve better than that, especially Albertans.
Do you think average Albertans who signed the petition supporting the separatist cause, the independence movement, even understand the Clarity Act or are aware that it exists?
Well, certainly the government and the leaders of the separatist movement have not been clear about this. You know, to give them some credit, the separatist movement folks have said, even if in the very unlikely events of a yes vote, that just sets off a period of consultations and discussions that could take years. However, a lot of the separatist folks online, if they're not, you know, foreign bots, because we know that's engaged in the whole thing as well, really are making people believe that if there were a yes vote, Alberta would be independent the next day. So there's some deliberate misleading going on, but there's a lot of omission on the part of the provincial government to not explain to people what this really means.
Okay. I really appreciate the time today. Very generous with your time. Always good to get caught up with you, sir. Thank you again.
Always happy to chat with you. There is no such thing as a slow news day in Alberta these days.
No, not by the sounds of it.
But thanks to everyone nationally for your interest, and to all Albertans. Listen, the fight for Canada is the fight of our lives, and we've got to take it on.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Naheed Nenshi, the leader of Alberta's New Democrats. I'm Rob Snow. We will turn our attention to federal politics. Coming up next, a pair of great columnists will join us. Tasha Kheiriddin from the National Post, Brian Lilley from the Toronto Sun. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
It's our Wednesday Newsday political panel, and the scribes are back. Tasha Kheiriddin, columnist, National Post. Welcome back. Tasha, great to hear from you.
Great to hear from you.
Brian Lilley, columnist, Toronto Sun. How are you, Brian?
Perfectly adequate on a bland Toronto day.
Okay. That's good to hear, I suppose. That's good to hear. Okay, you won the draft lottery. Maybe that'll cheer up Leaf fans. At least they have something to cheer for. All right. Sorry, Tasha, go ahead.
No, I just said we, like how great.
We.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We need all the good news we can get. So there's some.
There you go. Okay. Well, let's start with what you've been writing about. Brian certainly has some thoughts on the new Governor General, writing in the Sun. Louise Arbour was exactly the wrong pick to become Canada's next Governor General. Why do you say that, Brian?
Because this is supposed to be a nonpartisan, non-political role, and Mark Carney said, call up Central Casting. Find me someone that will anger conservatives, that holds all the left-wing progressive positions that I do, that has opined on absolutely everything, criticized Israel's human rights record while praising China's and Cuba's. Let's find someone like that. And that person is Louise Arbour. She's a very accomplished woman. I don't want to take anything away from her on that. But the role of Governor General should be above politics, above the fray, not someone who is, as I said, out there opining on absolutely everything, which she has done. She comes from a very distinct political viewpoint. She was a Supreme Court justice that wanted to bring in positive rights and insert them into the charter for social services such as welfare. That would have taken away the ability of legislatures to actually make decisions on how we spend our money. She's a horrible choice on so many fronts.
What do you think about the pick, Tasha?
Well, I echo Brian's concerns. When I saw this, I immediately remembered what she had said about Israel. She also criticized our military and said some very, she does not mince words. She's not a diplomat, and that's what this role pretty much you have to be. And, she said, I think Brian actually quoted it, if you just recruit white boys who like guns but don't like women or anyone who doesn't look like them, you'll perpetuate that culture. She also, slammed the entire military as basically not serving Canada. So, that her role as Governor General, she's going to be interacting with the military. And yes, she wrote a report that was important in the sense that, yes, there's sexual abuse in the military, no question. There's harassment. It's got to be rooted out. But it was the way she expressed herself that is a concern. So that's where I share Brian's take, is that you've got to have a person in this role who is neutral. And that's almost impossible to find these days. But at the very least, someone who isn't as opinionated, as vocal about their opinion. It would be like putting an opinion columnist, right, in the role. The likelihood of Brian or me being appointed Governor General is probably zero. And partly because of that, because we have a sharp tongue. So in her case, yeah, I don't know. We had enough issues with Julie Payette. Let's hope we don't have the same situation this time.
If I could just add one more thing, Rob. If a conservative government put in someone as conservative as Ms. Arbour is liberal, they would be accused by the Liberals of undermining the institution. And that's what Mark Carney has done. This is not a Louise Arbour problem. This is Mark Carney is undermining the institution of the Governor General by making it so political.
Okay. Now, Tasha has been writing some thoughts about Mr. Carney and his affinity for all things European. You say it's personal for him, Tasha. What do you mean?
Well, sure. I mean, I think it's personal, political, and economic, but the personal is definitely part of it. Mark Carney spent a good part of his career in the same circles that he is in now. He was governor of the Bank of England. He was the special climate finance envoy for the United Nations. He's very aware. I mean, the first trip he made as prime minister was not to Washington. It was to meet Macron and Starmer, a nod to our French and English heritage, but also because he knows these guys and he's very comfortable with them. So there is definitely a personal aspect to this. And the political one is to basically hedge against the U.S. And either it's a plan, it's a way to try and leverage, we have other friends, or it's a plan B in case our negotiations on Kuzma fall apart on July 1st. But either way, history tells us that this effort to diversify to Europe, while it can go so far, is not going to replace the United States. It's been tried before by previous prime ministers. It did not bear fruit. We already have a deal with Europe for 98% of our exports are tariff-free. So it's not clear how much more we have to gain in this.
Yeah, that is lost in so much of the conversation. We already have a deal with the EU. Yeah. We already have a deal with the EU. We have continuation. Yeah, we have a continuation agreement with the UK after post-Brexit as well. So, Brian, what do you think, Brian?
I'm with Tasha. Like, what more can we do? It makes Carney feel good. He gets a lot of media accolades for it. But the EU is not going to replace our trade with the U.S. And let me give you some hard numbers on that. Our exports to the EU on just a goods basis, this is goods, not goods and services, $34.48 billion. Compare that to the U.S., $383 billion, more than 10 times higher. We import about $336 billion from the United States, but we import $54 billion from the EU. We do have a trade imbalance with them of about $20 billion a year. That's with an existing free trade agreement. And our big exports, they're not going to buy because we can't get our oil to them due to a lack of pipelines. We can't get them LNG, which they desperately want because we haven't built the facilities or the pipelines. Autos, they're not going to buy our autos. Our entire auto industry is directed towards the United States, and think of the vehicles that we do build here. They're too big for Europe. And we're not going to be sending them huge amounts of lumber. Our big exports are not made for the European market. So it's not clear what Mark Carney's hoping to achieve here other than good politics for him. He gets to say, see, I'm closer to the nice guys, not the bad orange man in the United States.
All right. Okay. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about the big conservative gab fest getting underway in Ottawa, the Canada Strong and Free Network. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
It's our Newsday panel. Tasha Kheiriddin's here, columnist with the National Post. Brian Lilley, columnist with the Toronto Sun. The annual conservative conference is underway in Ottawa. This is the Canada Strong and Free Conference. And according to one report, it's a chance for potential Conservative Party leadership hopefuls to work the room should Pierre Poilievre's job become available. Politico floated this today. Jason Kenney, Jamil Javani, Michelle Rempel-Garner, Melissa Lantzman, Shiv Majumdar, members of the Mulrooney family, Doug Ford, Tim Houston, Lisa Raitt, and Rona Ambrose, all among the names that surface as potential successors to Pierre Poilievre. Is that job available, though? Tasha, what do you think about this?
Well, it's good. They've got a long list. I'll say that. I think some of these names have been floated for a while in the ether, but things are becoming, I would say, a little more concrete, maybe the wrong word, but defined. The most recent Nanos poll came out again and showing that I think that, the gap between Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre is not going away. It does not seem that Poilievre has been able to get any traction with whatever he's been saying lately. And I think that he's going to be done by the end of the year. I do believe that the party will have to move on. It has to come from caucus. They have to be the ones to vote him out or threaten to vote him out and have him step down. It's unfortunately for him, the timing of his ascension coincided with the rise of Donald Trump, the departure of Justin Trudeau, and Mark Carney as a stabilizing figure that many voters in Canada, in fact, most boomer voters in Canada in particular, look to and say, that's the guy we need to take on Trump. Now, things can go sideways, perhaps, for Carney if we don't get a deal with the U.S. for Kuzma this summer, but I don't think even if things go worse for him, that Poilievre would be the one to beat him in an election. So I think that the party is going to be, people are maybe be testing the waters, or the party itself is going to start, putting the kettle on to boil, so to speak.
Interesting. Done by the end of the year, Brian. Poilievre done by the end of the year, Tasha says. What do you think about that?
It's possible. I mean, I'm hearing more griping from conservatives than I have since just after the election. Right after the election and for a couple months after, there was a lot of griping that, we lost, people upset. And I remember writing about that after a visit to Stampede, Alberta conservatives furious with Poilievre. He hadn't won his seat back yet. Then that went away. It's come back. It's is the job open? No. From that list, I can tell you who's not running. Rona Ambrose, not coming back to politics. Lisa Raitt, not coming back to politics. Doug Ford, as much as people love talking about it, I don't see it happening. He doesn't like leaving Etobicoke. Shiv Majumdar, I don't see him running. The rest, Kenny has told me he's not running and has tried to make that point online. But do I believe him? I don't know. Tim Houston, there's an ambitious man.
Tim Houston?
Yep, Tim Houston.
Yeah, ambitious, but how
Premiers
conservative is he?
Well. Tim is fairly conservative. Is he where the base is right now? I don't know. I hear everyone say, back to Doug Ford, Doug Ford's not a conservative. Doug Ford is just a liberal. They've got all kinds of really nasty names for him. You know what Doug Ford is able to do that the last three conservative leaders haven't been able to do? Win an election.
Yes.
Whoever they find, it's got to be someone that can win an election. Pierre Poilievre still thinks he can. I'm not sure. So is it Jason Kenney, Jamil Juvani, Michelle Rempel-Garner, Melissa Lantsman, or Tim Houston? Those are the only names I'd leave on that list.
Yeah, I think that the issue with Doug
go
Ford,
ahead, Tasha. Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say the issue with Doug Ford is his stock is falling provincially here, following the jet scandal and other things. So I would probably not keep him on the list as much as I would have before the start of this year.
Okay. Speaking of airplanes, what do you think of this idea of selling off airports to private investors, Brian?
As my colleague Warren Kinsella was writing in The Sun the other day, that's what helped him and all the Liberals working for Jean Chrétien win the 1993 federal election, was that this was something they were going to do. I'm not sure the public's going to like it. And while I'm normally a private sector guy, an airport is a piece of public infrastructure. The guy to talk to on this is Duncan Dee, who can explain how the U.S. treats their airports very differently, and it helps lead to lower costs and lower fares that we all pay. I don't see how privatizing the airports would do anything but jack up the price of flying, which in Canada is already far too high.
Oh, sure. Tasha, what do you think?
Yeah, Australia did it, and several of its airports were privatized, and fares went up. And I think right now there's no appetite for higher fares. I'm a little confused as to why the government is singling this out. There are other assets they could probably monetize. Why the airports? They already collect money from the nonprofits that run the airports. So I don't think the public would be very excited by this, especially at this juncture. So again, not too sure why it's on the menu. Maybe they can explain it in more detail.
Okay, when we come back, we will turn our attention to Doug Ford, his recent woes. You're both in Toronto. You've both been following it. Is this the beginning of the end of Ford Nation? I guess that's the question. Is he going to jail? Would he qualify for bail? Or would he have to apply for reverse onus bail? Doug Ford and his political future when we come back. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
With Brian Lilley, columnist with the Toronto Sun, Tasha Kheiriddin, columnist with the National Post. Doug Ford, the next Ontario election is a long ways off. It doesn't have to be held legally until April of 2030. So, almost 4 years now. Do you think Doug Ford will still be around by then, or are we in the end game for Ford Nation, Brian? What's your sense of things right now with him?
Well, he's down for sure. He's not, it's not as if he wouldn't win an election if it were held right now. There was one poll that said the Liberals are ahead by one. I don't really buy it because it's a pollster I don't normally work with. I'm not discounting them, but I'm not used to them. And also because the Liberals have no leader. So I think that's people saying, oh, yeah, Liberals. Yeah, I like Mark Carney. Is it closer than it was in the last election? Absolutely. But, he's been lower than this before. In September of 2023, he hit 33%. He'd fallen that low, and that was during the Greenbelt scandal. He canceled the Greenbelt, and by the end of the year, Abacus data had him back up at 42%, Main Street at 36%. So he can bounce back. Now, do I think he should be running again? No, I think he's won 3 majority mandates, serve out part of this, then step down. But he wants to run a 4th time. He's been very clear that he wants to do it. And so based on history, he was down in 2019, came back, down in 2023, came back. He's not down as much as either of those times, so he could come back. It will really depend on who becomes Ontario Liberal leader. If it's Nathaniel Erskine-Smith, I think Doug Ford wins a 4th term. If it's Navdeep Bains, it's going to be more difficult.
Yeah, I wrote those 2 names down. Nate Erskine-Smith, I think Ford could dispatch with him. Navdeep Bains, probably a different story. What do you think, Tasha?
Yeah, I think that it really does depend a lot on who's going to be Liberal leader. And I think it depends on Ford. No one's going to push Ford out. He's going to be the one to decide. And I think, if the polling shows that closer to the vote that he is going to lose, I don't know if he will roll the dice on that, but I think he's been very damaged, as I said earlier, by not only the jet, that was sort of I think the apex of it, but the scandals that, Merit Stiles recently made some very inflammatory comments. I'm not even going to repeat them because I don't think you should say those things about another person in politics the way she did. But the point is that he's done, his government has had scandals and done things that a lot of people have been scratching their head for years, Greenbelt and other things. So it's a combination, it's accumulation of factors that have worn down his popularity. And the jet, really, that was the crash landing for a lot of people saying, no, that's a bridge too far. No, I can't believe a guy who's supposed to be on the side of taxpayers would go and spend money on a private plane. So his image has been tarnished. I like Brian, though. I'm not sure that it's that far gone that he couldn't win again, but it depends who else is running against him.
All right. That is our time, and it's always a pleasure to hear from the two of you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rob. Bye.
Yeah, thanks. Brian Lilley, read him in the Toronto Sun. Tasha Kheiriddin, read her in the National Post. And call me right after the news for Talkback on News Radio.
It's time to talk back
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It is 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today's topic is getting ahead. Getting ahead. And what we're going to do today, we're going to ask you a classic pollster question. And I'm going to be keeping track of your answers. I want to see if there's a trend, one way or another, just on this topic. So here's our question. Phone lines open right now, 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. When you think about Canadians' overall well-being, do you believe Canadians are getting ahead, treading water, or falling behind? How would you answer that question? Getting ahead, treading water, things are about the same as they've been recently, or are they falling behind? How would you answer that question? Do you take, door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3? When you think about, say, what's going on in your own life, or with the people you know, or what you see around you in your day-to-day life, do you think Canadians are getting ahead? Are they treading water, or are Canadians falling behind? What would you say? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. There are quite a few reasons we wanted to get into this topic today. One of them is a recent comment from Prime Minister Mark Carney that he made during a debate in question period not that long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and it's just been kind of bouncing around in my head what the Prime Minister said. He said Canadians are getting ahead. And to back that up, he pointed to the fact that wages are growing faster than the rate of inflation. So this goes back about 2 weeks ago. The Prime Minister and Pierre Poilievre were going at one another in question period over the cost of living and over gas prices. Poilievre was calling on the government to suspend all the gas taxes for the rest of the year. And you remember later the Prime Minister announced that his government would suspend the excise tax on fuel until Labor Day. But on that day, the Prime Minister rose in the House of Commons and he said, Canadians are getting ahead. I want you to listen to what he said. I am quoting him accurately. Roll the tape.
One thing I've learned in my economics education is you've got to study history and you've got to look at numbers. My record as a central bank governor is inflation less than 2% at the Bank of Canada, inflation less than 2% at the Bank of England. But let's get back to where we are today, which is wages in this country are growing at more than twice the rate of inflation, and I'll spell it out for the member opposite. That means Canadians are getting ahead.
That means Canadians are getting ahead. Mark Carney in the House of Commons about 2 weeks ago. Canadians are getting ahead. And as evidence, he pointed to wages. growing at twice the rate of inflation. Now, he's almost right. He's not quite right, but he's almost right. According to the most recent unemployment report from StatsCan, the average hourly wage in Canada is $37.73 an hour, 4.7% higher than it was this time last year. And according to Statistics Canada, the most recent inflation rate is 2.4%. So wages are growing at almost twice the rate of inflation. He's almost right, but not quite. But more to the point, does that mean Canadians are getting ahead? Or are they kind of in a holding pattern? Or are they falling behind? When you think about Canadians and their well-being, Mr. Carney says we're getting ahead. We are getting ahead because wages are going up faster than the rate of inflation. Now, as well, some more comments from the Prime Minister. He was asked recently by a news reporter about the cost of living. This was during his announcement about the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And he was asked by the news reporter, was Graham Richardson of CTV News, who said, well, a sovereign wealth fund sounds great, but what is your government doing at the Main Street level about the cost of living? And during his answer, the Prime Minister seemed to suggest inflation really isn't a problem. Let's listen to a little bit of that.
Well, inflation, I'd remind that inflation in this country is, for the entire life of this government, it has been in the Bank of Canada's target range. Okay, so there's not been a shift in overall inflation. I understand grocery prices, fuel prices. That's why we've taken targeted action. I'm pushing inflation out of your pretext because that's not factually correct. I'm sorry, if you can ask a factual question, you'll get a factual answer.
So, inflation, he says, is not really a problem. It's 2.4%. But food inflation is 4%. Prices for vegetables are up almost 9%. Gas prices up 6%. But the Prime Minister is adamant inflation is not really a problem as long as you don't eat and as long as you don't drive, I guess it's not a problem. And he also touted all the programs that his government has so people can get ahead. National School Food Program, Canada Child Benefit, Dental Care Program, Pharmacare Program, Groceries and Essentials Benefit. But he says wages are going up more than inflation, and they are. And he says the inflation rate is well within the Bank of Canada's target rate for inflation, and it is. But are Canadians getting ahead is our question for you, because here are a bunch of other numbers for you. There are 1.5 million Canadians unemployed. 120,000 Canadians stayed at a homeless shelter last year. Another 70,000 or so live rough every night. And there are 2 million visits to food banks every month. There was a story recently in the news media that said people making $115,000 a year can't buy a home. They're priced out. Desjardins Economics recently wrote a commentary about the rise of the permanent renter. The Prime Minister says Canadians are getting ahead because wages are growing faster than inflation. As I say, he's not wrong. Wages are growing faster than inflation. But are Canadians getting ahead, as he also claims? So what do you think, everyone? We'll keep track of your answers today. I'd love to know your opinions. Canadians and their well-being. Are Canadians getting ahead? Are they just kind of treading water, or are Canadians falling behind? We're doing this kind of as a poll. We want to see if there's any trend at the end of Talkback today. So give us a call. Give us your answer. If you've never called before, just mention that, and we'll make your call a priority. 1-833-668-2577. Let's kick it around. Are Canadians getting ahead? I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Running a poll today. When you think of the overall well-being of Canadians, are Canadians getting ahead? Are things about the same? Are they treading water? Or are Canadians falling behind? What would you say? Keeping track of your answers. 1-833-668-2577. 2 lines available. Let's go to Okotoks. First of all, Troy is there, first-time caller. Hello, Troy.
Hi, how's it going?
Hi, Troy. Yeah, good to hear from you, Troy. What would you say? Getting ahead? About the same? Falling behind? What would you say?
I'd say falling behind. So I'm 33. I make $49 an hour, and the only debt I have is my mortgage, and I have to work 6 days a week to make ends meet. And I would say $49 an hour is a pretty good wage. So I don't know where these numbers are coming from. That like they're claiming that inflation's like 4%. I mean,
2.4%.
Don't say that.
2.4%. You don't think it's true that inflation is 2.4%? No way. No. Okay. So falling behind, so your inability to feel as though you're getting ahead, what do you think is behind that? Is it mostly financial, like the cost of things, how expensive things are?
Everything. Like just like on food. Like the best example for me that comes to mind is just like on coffee, for example. I make all my coffee at home. Like a bag of coffee beans at Costco here in Alberta is about $29. I think it's $28 or $29 a bag. Oh, yeah. 2 years ago it was like $18. So that's like whatever. The quick math, I think that's like 70%. That's a lot of food. Is just it is definitely outpaced the average wage increase that I think most people have seen.
Right. So when the Prime Minister says something like wages are growing faster than inflation, so people are getting ahead, you don't buy it.
No. So
you don't buy it.
Yeah. I mean, I got a raise beginning of last year. It was 3%, and I would say, yeah, my cost of living has definitely increased a lot more than only 3%.
All right. I'm just curious, you're 33 making $49 an hour. What do you do for a living? That's a pretty good wage.
I am an electrician at a maintenance or at a
electrician
cardboard plant here that is in Calgary.
Okay. Well, all the best to you. Thank you. You've got us off and running and off to a good start. There you go. 39 years old, making $49 an hour. Feels like he's falling behind. Herman up next in Calgary today. Hello, Herman.
Hi, Rob. Thank you for taking my call.
Getting ahead, treading water, or falling behind?
The way you framed the question, beginning saying door number 1, door number 2, door number 3, begs me to cast Mark Carney in the role of Monty Hall. Because before we look at door number 3, let's remember that there is a dental program. Let's remember that we're doing all of this wealth redistribution to actually hide the fact that the numbers say that per capita GDP has been falling for 10 years. So the math tells us that Canadians, for some time now, have been falling behind.
Okay. Do you feel like you're falling behind?
Oh, it's definitely more of a struggle than it has.
More of a struggle.
Okay. I mean, I'm in my 50s and I do okay. And but sometimes I will say, no, I'm going to, eat at home a little bit more this week to kind of save some money up and that sort of stuff. It's a balancing act that I haven't had to really confront since I was in university.
You would say these are the most challenging times since you were in university, like decades ago.
They're getting there. I graduated in 93. Yeah, absolutely. And when I graduated from my engineering and economics degree, that was a downturn in Canada.
That was a downturn.
This is worse.
Yes, I remember the early 90s. I remember it was tough for a lot of people that I went to university with in the early 90s who were taking engineering, studying engineering. It was a very difficult time period. And you're saying it's even tougher now. All right. Very interesting. Okay. Why don't we stop here? We're just getting going, though, on Talkback today. Kind of running a poll. Falling behind in the lead. Are Canadians, but think of their overall well-being. You can't just look at it as a dollars and cents kind of thing, but just the overall well-being of Canadians right now. Are they getting ahead? Are things about the same? Treading water, as I say. or are Canadians falling behind? The Prime Minister says Canadians are getting ahead. What do you say? 1-833-668-2577 and have your say on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So we're running a little poll today and asking, when you think about the overall well-being of Canadians, are Canadians getting ahead? Are things about the same? Are Canadians falling behind? 1-833-668-2577 and give us your answer here on Talkback. Eric is in Halifax. Hello, Eric.
Hey, good afternoon, Rob. I want to take door 2.5. And the reason why I want to take door 2.5 is the only ones that are getting ahead are the chosen few. Out of the 40 million people in Canada, probably about 20% of them, or no, 50% of them are doing good. The other 50% are hurting. Cost of groceries, health plans suck. And basically, like I said, there's only the chosen few that are getting ahead. The rest of us are hurting. I'm 77 years old.
Well, the chosen few, the chosen few is not, 50% or so. We would talk about, say, the top 10%, or we would break it down by, the 25%, 25%, or what have you. But you would say you're not getting ahead. That's what I'm taking away from you. You don't feel as though you're getting ahead.
Because I'm 77 years old, and I'm making now what I made 20 years ago. So I lived good for 2 weeks, but the other 2 weeks I hurt hard. So I'm not getting ahead at all. And like I said, I'm taking door number 2.5 because treading water and getting behind. I personally am not getting ahead. And I can't believe what that man said in Ottawa. I just don't know where he's coming from.
Okay. Well, he said wages are keeping up with the rate of inflation. They're outpacing the rate of inflation. That means Canadians are getting ahead.
Where though? Where's the cost of living and all that, and their health plans, and them people waiting in to see a doctor or waiting to see somebody at the outpatient centers? Ask them people and ask the homeless people. They'll tell you what's going on in Canada. I mean, for Carney to make that saying what he said, I don't know what he was thinking of. I mean, he's just telling people what they want to hear.
He's an economist. He's looking at the numbers. He's seeing, thank you, Eric, wages are going up this much. Inflation is going up this much. Since wages are going up more than inflation, Canadians are getting ahead. It's the way an economist would look at it, I guess. That's why we wanted to kind of take it for a test drive today. Mike is in Dartmouth. Hello, Mike.
Hi, buddy.
Hi, Mike.
I'm going to touch on that right off the bat. I'm going to say that the problem being is that the wages for so long didn't move much, and so the problem being is, they're moving now, and they're outpacing the other numbers, but the problem being is, what is it here? I heard statistically $28, $29 an hour to be like poverty or a little above poverty. So
a living wage would be mid to high $20 an hour range in Halifax. To high $20 an hour range.
Minimum wage is like up to what, 16 now? So that's grown a little bit over the years, but it's been so far behind. Like how do you get somebody from $16 an hour up to 28, 29?
Well, Mr. Carney is looking at the numbers that are in the unemployment report, and the unemployment report says the average wage, people will make more, a lot of people will make less, a lot of people will make a lot more. $37.73 an hour is the average wage in this country for a working person now.
Yeah, but you put all the government employees in that list and all the people that are quite wealthy and stuff. I mean, I just, the way I look at it, I got 4 kids. One's got a house. Him and his wife are doing very well. He's a policeman. She's a nurse. So they're the ones that are, but you know what? Even at that level, those two are, they've got 2 vehicles.
So I want to put you down, Mike. I want to put you down on our poll. What do you say? Getting ahead, treading water, or falling behind?
So for my group, as a senior on pensions, falling behind.
Okay, thank you. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Are Canadians getting ahead, treading water, or falling behind? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're keeping score today. We're doing a running poll. When you think about the overall well-being of Canadians, are Canadians getting ahead? Are things about the same? Or are Canadians falling behind? Our call-in line is 1-833-668-2577. Mr. Carney, the Prime Minister, in case you're just joining us, that's what prompted me to ask you about this today. Some comments he made in the House of Commons recently when he said Canadians are getting ahead because wages are increasing faster than the rate of inflation. Let's play that one more time.
One thing I've learned in my economics education is you've got to study history and you've got to look at numbers. My record as a central bank governor is inflation less than 2% at the Bank of Canada, inflation less than 2% at the Bank of England. But let's get back to where we are today, which is wages in this country are growing at more than twice the rate of inflation, and I'll spell it out for the member opposite. That means Canadians are getting ahead.
That means Canadians are getting ahead. Because the average hourly wage is $37.33 an hour. That was an increase of 4.7% year over year at a time when the most recent reading on inflation was 2.4%. So for the Prime Minister, the central banker, the economist, he says that means Canadians are getting ahead. But are we? That's what we want to know today. Sandy is up next. Hello, Sandy.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Snow.
Hi, Sandy.
I listen to your program religiously. Thank you for taking my call. I've never had an opportunity to speak with you before. My comment this morning is that Mr. Carney needs to go back to school. He is neither studious nor a good economist. I look at my neighborhood here in Calgary, and on our cul-de-sac, we have 3 multiple dwelling families. By that I mean grandparents, parents, and children, because these people cannot afford to live in apartments or to buy themselves a home. I also look at Alberta, where we have 400,000 signatures presently wanting to leave the province of Alberta. That does not tell me that these people are happy. So I think that Mr. Carney speaks out of his ear. I love the gentleman who called it the Monty Hall show. What I would do is tell you need a 4th category, drowning, because the people that I speak to, drowning would be an appropriate category. The people that I speak to say they have to choose between gas and having a good meal at their home. So I don't know what Mr. Carney smokes, but I am so disgusted by the man. And further to this, and then I'll let you go, is this man is giving millions to other countries when the people in our country are desperate to be getting ahead.
Okay, thank you. I won't put drowning down as an individual category. I'll put you down as falling behind, though, which is so far the dominant opinion today. But we are asking, you have 3 different options there. Press 1, 2, or 3. Let's go. Matt in Kitchener, Ontario. Hello, Matt.
Hey, I'm going to fall in the category of falling behind. I'm in the private sector. And it's a two answer question to you. The frozen food section at your favorite grocery store, I call them the heat and eats, the frozen stuff. They're up $4 in 30 days for the same tray of food.
My gosh.
Okay. Now the only people getting ahead is the government sector. And our local transit company, bus company, run by the region, they just got a 16% pay raise.
Wow. Over how many years?
Over their 3-year contract.
Over a 3-year contract. Okay.
I don't get a 16% raise in the private sector. I've never gotten that level of a pay raise. So Carney is right. People are getting ahead only if you work for government.
Only if you work for government. I will just point out that collective bargaining is underway between the government and the major public sector unions, and the government's opening offer right now is, I believe, 3.5% over 4 years. 3.5% over 4 years.
Go back to Corona. Remember when they all went on strike and they got an 18% pay raise plus signing bonus?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd have to look up the exact figures. I mean, that's, it's years ago. I wouldn't have that number right offhand. But PSAC, which is the biggest union of them all, Public Service Alliance of Canada, wants 4.75% a year for each of the next 3 years, and the government's countering with 3.5% over 4 years. They're not happy about it. But you would say falling behind. You're in the category of falling behind. Thank you, Matt in Kitchener. John in Calgary is up next. John? Hi, John.
Hello?
Hi, John. What would you say? Getting ahead, about the same, falling behind? What would you say?
Yeah, I might be a little unpopular here because I think we are about the same, right? I think
the same.
Nothing,
Okay.
Yeah, I think nothing besides of course, like with my job, I've also made a little bit more my newer job, right? That I can live like this, right? I feel like it's a lot of people, trying to just blame the prime minister instead of maybe take responsibility for themselves. So I feel like things are staying the same, maybe getting a little bit worse, but people aren't having the right attitude about it, and they're just okay with it.
Okay, when you say take personal responsibility, I was curious if this was going to come up, whether people would view it as, well, maybe if, we lived more modest lifestyles, we didn't have such, maybe our needs are too extravagant or whatever. We're not saving enough. We want everything right now. Do you think that's part of it, sir? I'm just curious.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's
really
all about people. It's about these trends that are happening, people wanting to compete with each other instead of focusing on what truly matters.
Right. Like this desire to say, keep up with the Joneses, in other words. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
That old line, keep up with the Joneses? Okay.
Everyone wants to keep appearances.
Keep up appearances. Right. Okay. So you are in the minority opinion today, but hey, all opinions are welcome. That's why we do Talkback. Things are about the same. He says things are about the same. Prime Minister Carney says people are getting ahead. Look at wage growth. Wages are up faster, higher than the rate of inflation, so you're getting ahead. But what do you say on our overall well-being? We have about 4 lines available right now, so the wait won't be long at all. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
It's a poll today. When you think about the overall well-being of Canadians, are Canadians getting ahead? Are things about the same, or are Canadians falling behind? What is your opinion? What is your answer? We're keeping score today. 1-833-668-2577. Steve is in Guelph. Thanks for calling, Steve.
Hey, Rob. How's it going today?
Very good, Steve. Thank you. What would you say, Steve?
Good. I'd say falling behind for sure. And, I was going to say, you can make any math look good if it's the right answer, if nobody's questioning the math behind it. Because I just don't think that math really adds up. I'm 37, family of, I have 3 kids, and it's tough for every month, right? Whether you're making good money or not. It's tough in your own way. And I think, I don't really know how to say this in the best way, but there's so much waste in the government and so many things that are going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. They're leading to contributing factors to everything being more expensive. The wages are going up, okay, fine. Whether we get a 2 or 3% raise in the private sector once a year or more if you're good at your job, maybe. I just don't see it. I don't know. I would like to see that report. And if you could find it somewhere, I'd love to see the math behind it because it just doesn't add up for me at all.
Okay, so when you say people are falling behind, what is it that leads you to believe people are falling behind? Is it purely a financial thing? Like, is it cost of living driven?
Well, I'm in my mid to late 30s here, and when you look at it, you talk to people who are in their 60s, and people my parents' age, and they realize what you're paying for a mortgage just for a standard house, or if you're lucky enough to have a decent house, they say to me, I don't know how you could afford this based on what you make, and back in their day or whatever it might be. And I think a lot of people in their 60s who have been in the workforce for a long time would go back and say, I know that mortgage rates went high in the 90s or whatever it might be. But when you look at the contributing life factors of everything else, it doesn't add up. So things just don't make any sense. And I look at around people in my age group, a big factor as well is if you don't have kids, you can live in a smaller place, you can buy less groceries. That might get you ahead. But I don't think that's people who have kids right now are having an easier time at all. I don't think that those figures are correct. And I'd love to see the math behind it, to be completely honest.
All right. Thank you. Yep. For your call. Darren up next. Darren's in Calgary. Hello, Darren.
Hi, Rob. I love your show.
So behind door number 1, we have getting ahead. Behind door number 2, we have treading water. Behind door number 3, we have falling behind. What door do you say we look behind?
I think we're in the middle.
In the middle. Okay.
Yeah, because I think the people that are getting ahead are getting more ahead, and the people that are getting behind are more behind. So it's the same as it's kind of always been. But I think the people that are taking their finances seriously and doing a budget and fixing things and living within their means and not buying a vehicle they can't afford or going on vacations they can't afford has a factor. I know in Canada we have an issue with obesity and throwing out food. So when people complain about the food price, maybe you could fix your lifestyle a little bit.
Right. So you go back to one of our previous callers is we have to kind of look inward. And if we are falling behind, then what are we doing that we're not at least keeping up with others? Is it something that we're doing wrong personally? Is it our lifestyle? Is that the kind of the case that you're making? You think personally?
I know when I was young, when I was young and I wanted to play hockey, my parents said, no, we can't afford it. And that was the end of the discussion. There wasn't, okay, well, if we get a loan out, we can probably afford to get him in hockey. And if we travel around and take all of our weekends to go on these travel sports, then we can sacrifice our whole retirement for our kids' ability to possibly play hockey one day. So I think saying no to kids might be a part of it. I think, eating in a responsible way, not throwing out food, consuming everything you eat kind of thing.
Not to skip the dishes, every second day or whatever the case might be. Maybe getting another year out of an appliance, or so what if your car or your truck is 3 years old? It doesn't mean you have to go out and buy a new one, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. I think, obviously credit is highly promoted, and everyone thinks that credit is how you get rich, but building wealth is how you get rich. So it's so easy just to not even swipe a card, press a button on your phone, and everything comes to your door, right? There's no friction whatsoever. You're not even taking a cash out of your wallet anymore.
Right. Love that word, friction. Okay, thank you. That's very compelling case that you make there, Darren. Let's stop here. We'll take some more calls before the top of the hour. Lots of time to fit you in. Rapid poll style today. Are Canadians getting ahead? Are they about the same, treading water, or falling behind? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Again, your options of our poll today: are Canadians getting ahead? Are things about the same? Or are Canadians falling behind? Right to it here, Jeremy in Halifax. Hello, Jeremy.
Hello, Rob. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good, Jeremy. Thank you. What's your opinion?
For me, personally, I would say I'm in the middle, but I do believe a good chunk of the country would be falling behind.
Okay. And why do you think that is? What's going on?
Well, have you heard the term K economy?
K-shaped economy, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a good chunk of our population is on the bottom end of it. where a percentage of our population may be on the upward trend. I mean, I like to see the math behind what the Prime Minister said about people having a wage increase that's outpacing inflation. Like what?
Well, that's right from StatsCan. That's right from StatsCan, sir. That's from the latest unemployment report that showed the average hourly wage $37.33 an hour, and it's up 4.7% in a year, and the inflation rate's 2.4%. So that's why he's saying wages are growing faster than inflation, so Canadians are getting ahead.
Yeah, but how many of those people make $100,000 a year? How many of those make less than $50,000 a year? Right? What's the
Well, it's an average, right? It's an average. So some people are going to make a lot more and some people are making a lot less. And StatsCan uses this figure as the average hourly wage.
Yeah. So that's great. But if people are still not making enough to cover the basic cost of living, because, for example, we all know that inflation might be at 2%, but if you look at groceries, it's way beyond the 2% inflation.
Right.
So,
but the K-shaped, getting back to this, because you're the second person to bring this up, K-shaped, you think what's happening is we have a K-shaped economy right now where people who are in the stock market because the stock market is at record highs, or people who own real estate because real estate values are holding up for the most part, they're doing okay. But because of the rising cost of living, people in lower income households are not doing okay at all, right? That's kind of the K-shaped economy.
The way I look at it, is my buying power increasing or is my buying power decreasing, right? How much money do I have left over after expenses? Has it gone up compared to last year, or has it gone down compared to last year? And if you're in the situation where your buying power has gone down because of the increase in cost of living, then you're falling behind. If it's increased, in my opinion, then you're getting ahead. Or if you're in the middle, like me, you're just in the middle. And that's the way I look at it. And I think a lot of Canadians are finding the buying power has decreased and not increased.
All right, Jeremy, thank you. Going to take one more here. Anne is in Calgary. We'll have to move fast, though, Anne. 90 seconds here. What would you say, Anne?
Hi, I would say the majority of people are falling behind. I have a friend who told me last night that she was getting rid of her car. She's 75 years old, and she said that she had to decide between eating and keeping her car. So I would say falling behind. And she said, I have to pay, insurance. The price of gas keeps going up. You got to pay for maintenance. That keeps going up. Everything keeps going up. But her, she's on, pensions and stuff. She said, I can't make it. So I have to choose between driving and eating, and I'm going to choose eating. I'll be inconvenienced for the last years of my life. And that's really sad when you think about it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So we're halftime here on Talkback. I told you I was keeping score. We've taken 13 calls, which is like 10 is a busy hour. 13 is very busy for Talkback. It's about all you can fit in humanly possible. I'll let everybody have their say. Halftime, 13 calls. Getting ahead, 0. Treading water, about the same, 3. Falling behind, 10. We'll pick it up right after the latest breaking news. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. We are running a poll today, and we're keeping score. We're keeping track of your answers. We're asking about the overall well-being of Canadians. Do you think Canadians are getting ahead? Are things about the same? Or are Canadians falling behind? A reference point on this, for me, recent comments in the House of Commons from the Prime Minister, Mark Carney. These go back about 2 weeks ago, but it's been in my head. I haven't quite been able to get this out of my head since he said it 2 weeks ago. He said Canadians are getting ahead essentially because wages are growing faster than the rate of inflation. That, let's play the clip so we can hear from the Prime Minister about 2 weeks ago, April 15th.
One thing I've learned in my economics education is you've got to study history and you've got to look at numbers. My record as a central bank governor is inflation less than 2% at the Bank of Canada, inflation less than 2% at the Bank of England. But let's get back to where we are today, which is wages in this country are growing at more than twice the rate of inflation, and I'll spell it out for the member opposite. That means Canadians are getting ahead.
So wages in the last year grew 4.7%, and the latest reading on inflation was 2.4%. The average hourly wage is $37.33 an hour in Canada. So that's why he is saying Canadians are getting ahead. That's what's prompting me to ask you, do you think Canadians are getting ahead? Are things about the same, or are Canadians falling behind? And again, we're keeping track of your answers. Let's get right back to our phone lines. 3 are available right now at 1-833-668-2577 as we welcome Paul to the show, a first-time caller. Hello, Paul.
Oh, hello, Rob. Yeah, I think Stats Canada, the stats might well be right, but then again, with like 5 years of inflation that's been over 2%, and wages have not been keeping up. So we're so far behind now that 2%, 4% wage increase is not going to keep up with all the inflation we've had already since the start of COVID and all that additional spending and money printing. So to me, it just sounds like, don't pee up my back and tell me it's raining, because it's just BS, I think.
Okay, so how would you answer our poll question? Do you think people are getting ahead? No. Are they treading water? Are they just kind of like, or are they falling behind?
No, they're falling behind. And as well, I think the industrial carbon tax has just gone on, I believe, start of April. So there's more price rises to come through every sector, because that's going to hit everything again. It's industrial carbon tax. It hits everything. So it's going to hit power, it's going to hit fuel. So you're going to be expecting more price rises, and wages are not going to keep up. I mean, it doesn't affect me personally. I'm not, I'll just work harder. I can get by. But there's a lot of people, young, they're just going to struggle, I think, more so, especially with this anti-business sort of, it's just so hard to start a business. All the businesses are moving, entrepreneurs are moving. So a big no from me. Thank you.
Big no. Okay, falling behind. Falling behind, he says. James is up next. Hello, James. What would you say, James?
Hello, how are you? Hello,
Very
how are
good,
you?
James. What would you say? Yeah, fine. Thank you.
Well, first off, the problem is the statistics can be manipulated to the point where they can paint whatever picture they want. And as far as I'm aware of, I don't think food costs, transportation costs, and accommodation costs are calculated into inflation. So herein lies the problem. Maybe my cost of socks and underwear hasn't gone up, but I can't afford to buy socks and underwear because the cost of everything is so high. So I'm in the category of falling behind.
Yeah. So again, with the 2.4% figure, they have all items inflation. They have core inflation. Core inflation takes out volatile items like fuel prices. Fuel prices can be way up. Fuel prices can be way down. The price of food is volatile. But in the last inflation report, it comes in at 2.4%. But to your point, food inflation overall was 4%. Vegetables were up 9%, and gas prices were up 6%.
Yeah, exactly.
So they go back to this whole line. You don't have to worry about inflation as long as you don't eat or as long as you don't drive. You're doing just fine.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, I used to own my own house. I eventually lost it because I couldn't afford it over the number of years. I rented, can't afford to rent, and now I'm sleeping on the couch at my daughter's house. I'm 70 years old. I've worked my whole life, paid into everything. And with my pensions and what have you, they still want $3,700 a year in taxes at the end of my year. I can't afford life anymore.
Okay, so I will put you down then as falling behind. Unfortunately, sir, thank you, though, for your call. I believe we have time for one more. Wendell in Halifax. Wendell.
Hello, Rob.
Rob. Enjoy your show.
Hi, Wendell. Thank you, Wendell.
By the way, that clip you played sounded like a bunch of barking seals to me. And I'd add a door number 4, and that is falling off the cliff. Look, I'm in my mid-80s, Rob, and when I look back a few years ago and see what was going out the door in terms of expenses, and I compare it to today, I mean, it's just gone through the bloody roof. And I'll tell you, we just got back from Florida, and the mood down there is night and day. Taxes are coming off so many things, tax on tips, tax on overtime, tax on Social Security. A lot of states don't have income tax. Property taxes are coming down, and you get back home here, and if you pass gas, they'll shove a carbon tax on it. And it's just getting so difficult to live. And when I look at what those wasteful SOBs in Ottawa suck out of my fixed income every year, and so that moron PM can give $25 billion to Ukraine, I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Well, again, that's going back 4 years. He wasn't there the entire time, but that's what it is over the last 4 years. Yeah, it's almost $26 billion.
Yeah.
The spending, we recently had a spring economic update. I mean, it's a big spending government. It's almost $600 billion a year to run the federal government now. $600 billion a year. And just the public debt charges, the interest on the debt is consuming $55 billion a year now. It's more than what we're paying for healthcare. It's more than what the federal government is paying for healthcare.
Yeah, I think that 2.4 or whatever they're trying to shove down our throats, inflation is just one big smelly pile of BS. Because you look at you can't afford a piece of meat anymore, vegetables, and here in Halifax we're paying just shy of $2 for a liter of gas. And when I was in Florida, I got a gallon for $3.49, and so. I mean, we're paying what, $7-8 a gallon for gas? I mean, that's right up there with Europe.
Yeah, it's about $7 a gallon now. It'd be about $7 a gallon, well in excess of $6 a gallon. Yep, thank you. I got you. I won't put falling off a cliff. I will say falling behind, which is a very popular answer today. Love to know your answer. I believe we have cleared the phone lines with Wendell's call. So let's get them full again at 1-833-668-2577 here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Are Canadians getting ahead? Are things about the same? Are Canadians falling behind? What's your sense of things? What's your opinion? Let's get to Khalid in Calgary. Up next, Khalid.
It's Khalil.
Khalil. Sorry, Khalil. Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. How you doing? No problem.
My bad.
Yeah, Rob, thank you very much for having me over on this. Yeah, so first of all these numbers, whatever the Prime Minister has said in the Parliament, it's all, to be honest, it's all like, he talks like a typical accountant, I would say, like who's doing all the fudging numbers and manipulating the numbers and stuff like that. The 2.4% inflation versus the wage increase, whatever they're saying. Inflation based on every year, when you calculate all those numbers, it's going to be maybe 30-40% increase. So he's not talking about like how much the prices has increased since the last, within this last 10 years. He's talking about today. He said, because this is a number, and he's manipulating that number and trying to, prove his point, and he's completely out of touch with Canadians. I can tell you one thing. I myself is a property manager in a property management professional, and I meet and greet with people from all sides, and I can tell you one thing. We have the highest unemployment rate in our teenagers, in our young people, more than 21%, and I can prove it. And they are crying. They're living in the basement of their parents. and they cannot even, fulfill their basic needs, the daily needs. And all the seniors, they're living in poverty. So we kill the middle class, and we're talking about all of these fudge number, and proving our point in the parliament. And this is showing one of those rich people. They are completely out of touch with this poverty the people are right now living in Canada, and this poverty and there is no solution for it. And they're mocking the people. They're making a joke to the Canadians, and basically it's just like they.
So Khalil, do you think just because the phone lines are jammed on this topic, do you think most Canadians are falling behind and not getting ahead?
Yes, sir. So
Yes,
you
okay.
tell me who said in your program? Not a single person said that, and this is a proven
Not yet.
fact. And please do not all these journalists. They are topsy-turvy talks and stuff like that. There is no solution. It's all talk
Okay.
at the end of the day. But
All right, Khalil, thank you. I've got to get to another caller. I would say though, the Prime Minister he was asked in the last week or so, well, what about the cost of living? What are you doing about the cost of living so that for these people who feel like they're falling behind? He points to things like Canada Child Benefit. That's hundreds of dollars a month for families with children, National School Food Program, Dental Care Program, Pharmacare Program. He points to the enhanced GST rebate program. They've renamed that Groceries and Essentials Benefit. It's basically an increase in the GST rebate. If you qualify for that, it's being topped up by like 25%, I think, a year or so. But let's get to Debbie up next. Hi, Debbie. You're up next, Debbie. Hi, Debbie. What would you say?
Or afternoon. We are definitely falling behind. My kids can't afford to live on their own. They definitely can't afford houses. As someone who has worked in government research, collecting data and numbers, absolutely the numbers are skewed. And there's been some great examples of that from your previous callers. But they missed the one on unemployment rate. Those numbers only calculate the people currently qualified and collecting unemployment benefits. It doesn't include people on AISH or seniors. So, yeah, the unemployment rate is absolutely not even a real number as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so when they say the unemployment rate is 6.7%, you don't think that's a true reflection of unemployment in the country? Absolutely
what
not.
Exactly are they counting? They're counting the people on and collecting, not the ones that just got booted off and still don't have a job or don't no longer qualify.
Okay, yeah, 6.7%, by the way, for the unemployment. The StatsCan said the current unemployment situation doesn't have so much right now to do with people being laid off. It's more employers just aren't hiring. Everybody is kind of in a holding pattern right now. Nobody's on a hiring spree at the moment, according to the most recent report, kind of a ho-hums report. Not bad, but certainly not great. It was kind of blah. But that's the report that said the average hourly wage is $37.73 an hour, up 4.7% year over year, which is higher than the rate of inflation, to the Prime Minister's point. And he says that means you're getting ahead. Canadians are getting ahead. What do you say? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Are Canadians getting ahead? Are Canadians about the same as always? Are Canadians falling behind? What's your sense of it? We're running a poll today. To Southern Ontario we go for the next answer. It's Tom. Hello, Tom. Southern Alberta. Sorry, my apologies there. Southern Alberta, Tom. Okay. Maybe Tom's been to Southern Ontario at some point in his life. Who knows?
I don't want to beat a dead horse any more than we have to, but I kind of wanted to summarize what people are frustrated about with Carney's statement. It's just a classic example of them cherry picking data. So he's looking at data from the last year and comparing the wage increase to the inflation increase. As soon as you expand that out, if you zoom out 5 or 10 years especially, it's completely false, and you can come up with that information quite quickly with some creative searching. So they cherry pick that data so that he can then proceed to gaslight Canadians. They want that clip of him being able to say that because it is factually true, and so that they don't want to tell a lie because they're going to repeat him saying that to try and make everybody believe him. But like I said, if you go out past 1 year, that data is right out to lunch. And so I think that's what others have been alluding to, that kind of
Sure thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I
fair
wanted
enough.
to add
Fair
to
enough.
the conversation.
Yeah. And I thank you for that. I would like to kind of nail you down on, what you think is happening. I mean, are people getting ahead? Are they about the same?
No,
some people have said things are about the same, but a lot of people are saying we're falling behind here.
Yeah, and I'm fortunately, I think that amongst my peers, we do fairly well. We've got 2 good jobs in our household, and we kind of, I would say, are treading water. Like, we're just kind of coasting along. We're not really moving ahead. We're not really moving backwards. But considering our careers, we should be moving forward. So it just depends how you look at that. So generally speaking, lots of others that I'm surrounded with, I know, are going in the wrong direction. With debt and credit cards and having to make sacrifices with, kids' sports was brought up earlier, and that's something I'm involved in, and I see that lots where parents are having to choose not to allow their kids to, go on sports trips or join out of school sports kind of thing. There's sacrifices being made for sure.
Okay, thank you. Time for one more. Curtis, do you want to take one more or not? You want to stop? Go for it. Okay, in a minute or less, though. Cambridge, Ontario. John. Hello, John.
Good afternoon, Rob. Couple things here. It was talking about statistics. It was Mark Twain who said there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. And then it was Einstein, when you talk about Carney telling everybody he's well educated. Einstein said, just because you're well educated doesn't mean you're intelligent. Now, Rob, we have a problem in this country, and you know it. It's people aren't able to buy a house, and people are having real trouble staying in a house. I have a scenario, but it's going to take a couple minutes. Are you
okay? Well, if you want to hang on, I'll bring you back on. I will bring you back on, sir, because I know it's been a bit of a wait today because the phone lines are jammed on this one. It's really touched a nerve. And we'll be right back. Bring everyone up to date on the latest breaking news, and then back to Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Getting ahead, treading water, falling behind. How are Canadians doing, in your opinion, right now? John has been kind enough to wade through the news, and I thank you for your patience. John, you can pick up where you left off.
Thank you, Rob. During a couple's lifetime, this is a scenario. During a couple's lifetime, most couples try and put money into RSPs. When they retire, they turn them into a RIF, which is an income. Now, the scenario, the husband, let me say this, dies. His money is transferred over to the wife. She carries on and receives it. That's all good. When she dies, the total amount, the commuted value of her RIFs becomes taxable. And in areas of this country, that can be 54% goes to RevCan, the CRA. Now, my scenario is if that income was allowed to be carried on to the children, let's say an equal amount. So let's say 2 children, and let's say she was receiving the total of about, say, $7,000 a month. Each child then would get $3,500 a month, albeit taxable. But that could just be what's required. I can't imagine, Rob, being in a home now and your property tax and your mortgage being behind. I can't imagine the stress.
Oh, yes. Yes. That's such an interesting idea. You should pitch that to the Prime Minister, sir. he might want to hear you out on that.
Here's what I've tried. I've taken it to my MP in Cambridge, and it doesn't seem to be getting any traction. What I would like to recommend to each of your listeners, take this scenario to their MP, because it will require an amendment to the Income Tax Act. Rob, I spent 45 years in the financial service industry, so I have a good idea what I'm talking about. But you
Okay.
have to get an amendment to the Tax Act, and this could be just what is required. One more stat, Rob, and then I'll let you go. And I thank you for listening to me. In 1970, if you had an income equivalent then to $100,000 a year today, which incidentally was just over $9,000, you took home 85 cents on every dollar. Today, if you're earning $100,000, you're taking home 63 cents. Now, that blows Carney right out of the water because you're not getting it ahead because we're being taxed higher.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's just been bouncing around in my head. I've played the clip. Let's play it one more time, Curtis. Just play it one more time. Canadians are going on.
One thing I've learned in my economics education is you've got to study history and you've got to look at numbers. My record as a central bank governor is inflation less than 2% at the Bank of Canada, inflation less than 2% at the Bank of England. But let's get back to where we are today, which is wages in this country are growing at more than twice the rate of inflation. And I'll spell it out for the member opposite. That means Canadians are getting
that means Canadians are getting ahead. Yeah, but then I read stories about how Canadians who make like low six figures, like 115 grand a year, will never be able to buy a house in most of the major real estate markets in Canada on 115 grand a year, priced out of the market. Ron Butler, well-known mortgage broker, residential real estate podcaster, was quoted in that story. He's been on our show before. He told the public broadcaster, quote, in Ontario before 2015, a family making 115 grand a year had a shot at home ownership. They would have to go to places like Ajax, Burlington, Hamilton, the Niagara region to find a single family home. But they would not be able to find something today. Today, a $150,000 income earner really can't buy anything. They really can't buy anything. Wow. Airdrie. Kevin is in Airdrie, I believe. No, he's not. He's gone, isn't he? Yes, we've lost Kevin. That's too bad. Okay, from Airdrie to High River, we're skipping around Alberta. Hi, Russ. Hi, Russ.
How are you today? Hi.
I'm good,
How are
Russ.
you?
Thank you.
I'm
Very
sorry.
good. Thank you,
I was
Russ.
just laughing because you lost somebody in Airdrie. Sorry.
Bye-bye. Bye, Kevin.
Hey, we're getting behind, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say that. You know, I'd like to know, I know what Carney is, he gets these numbers that come from a Liberal party. They say Stats Canada, which is a Liberal government run by the Liberals. I want to know what the average income is, less all the government employees' wages. We're talking federal and provincial, because they're all union. Now, 90% of Canadians do not work for unions. That's like he says, well, we're going to give new good union jobs to build homes. Well, nowhere in Canada does unions build homes. So what is it without the government own raises given to their own people? What's the cost? I'll guarantee you, we're way behind.
Way behind.
Oh,
yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't looked up recently the percentage of union membership. It's certainly been on the decline in the private sector. It's been on the decline for decades in the private sector. Oh, here it is here. Private sector unionization rate, 15% now. Public sector unionization rate, 76%. For overall union coverage, 30%, 30.4%. As 5.3 million workers.
Use it. Because
there's
nowhere in Canada, he stands, but we're building houses, we're doing all this with good union jobs, and I'm going, this guy, he's supposed to know everything. Well, he might be book smart, not taking that, but real living,
I mean, if we get a new auto plant, or we lost an auto plant in Ontario today, one of those electric vehicle battery plants from Honda, they're not going to go ahead with that. That was a $15 billion plan. But, there are good union jobs in the private sector, sir. People working in steel mills and auto plants, people building pipelines, if we would do that, so.
I'm sorry, pipelines are not built by union members. I'm in the oil field. 90% of pipelines are built by non-union welders. But, I'm not saying anything there's bad about unions. I'm just saying that outside of even the government, we're getting further and further behind. And
right, you're saying if you're in a union, you might be doing better. If you're in a public sector union, you might be getting ahead. But if everyone else is not,
I'm 76 years old, and I meet with a group of senior guys, and they're all well-to-do. Even they tell me that it's getting harder and harder to make. And I have son-in-laws that are one's a policeman and one's a carpenter, and they haven't got a raise in 3 years. So outside of the few government, I think we're way worse off, and we're being taxed to death by the federal government. It's the Liberal government that's been in for 11 or 12 years. And
gotta go. Thank you. Gotta go, Russ. Thank you. Okay, free phone lines, folks, for the first time in a while here on Talkback. They've been jammed for the better part of an hour and a half now. If you want to get in, again, it's a basic question today. Are Canadians getting ahead, doing about the same, treading water, or are Canadians falling behind? The Prime Minister says wages are growing faster than the rate of inflation. Canadians are getting ahead. What do you think? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We have been running a poll today on Talkback. When you think about the overall well-being of Canadians, are Canadians getting ahead, treading water, or falling behind? Kitchener, Ontario. Dylan, up next. Hello, Dylan.
Hi, Rob. Definitely falling behind. Since 2020, COVID, I would say everything's gone up somewhere. Everything you use on the daily has gone up 50 to 75%. I can't get out of the grocery store for a family of three, under $350, $400. That's easily double what it used to be 5-6 years ago. There's just no way for young people to get ahead anymore. Historically, wealth was built mainly with your home. Yes. Young people today have a darn near zero chance of ever buying a home because it's just too hard to start. I think the government has got to put in some policies outlawing corporations from owning private homes and outlawing people from owning more than 2 homes. There's no reason that a corporation or a person should own 100 dwellings. It's just not right. Your household is a right. You shouldn't
I don't know if I would go that far. I'm with you. I'm with you up to a certain extent. But if I'm trying to make some money and I'm trying to accumulate some wealth and I buy an apartment building with 6 units in it as an investment and I rent it out and I'm a decent landlord, I don't think people should be prevented from doing something like that.
But that's not what's happening. That's not, you've got these people that own hundreds of units that aren't decent landlords, that raise the rent as much as they possibly can to maximize profit. And we're seeing it. People can't afford to live.
You're talking about the financialization of housing is what people call that.
It's got to be, run by the government. There's got to be rules put in place to minimize what, one entity can own. Because it's not that your house isn't meant to be a wealth building tool on a corporation level. That's why I say 2 houses per person. You got a house and a cottage. You can't own more than that. If you want something else, then you lease it or rent it.
All right. Well, that's a debate for another day. But I have you down as falling behind. Mike in Calgary. Hello, Mike. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Good. Mike, what's your opinion?
My opinion is we are definitely falling behind. They need to look at those numbers and incorporate the food and the gas prices. That's just the bottom line. And, when people are saying the youth can't afford to buy houses in the future, what does that mean? Does that mean that my house is worth nothing, essentially? Who am I going to sell it to? So that's a worry there, too. I do feel bad for the senior population. The cost of living is going through the roof. They spent their whole lives working hard so that they can relax. And when we get there, they're having trouble doing that. So I wonder, without looking, I haven't looked. So has the pension gone up in percentage to match the inflation? How are these people doing with that? And one thing also I would like to say is we're offshoring jobs at rates that are unsustainable. We have immigrants that come to the country and then leave because they can't find a good paying job. Meanwhile, the government lets these jobs go out overseas. So I am under the opinion that we are falling behind.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Just on housing and how hard it is, there was a commentary recently from Desjardins, the Quebec-based financial services firm, about the prospects of owning a home, how that's kind of bleak for some people these days. I mean, the title of the report says it all. It priced out of the dream, the rise of the permanent renter. Came out about a week ago. Didn't get a lot of buzz at the time because it's kind of a buzzkill, to tell you the truth. So these economists at Desjardins say housing prices are so insane in places like Toronto and Vancouver. Let me give you this quote. The idea of restoring broad home ownership in these cities is infeasible. Infeasible. Their words. But in other words, not going to happen. It's not feasible. It's so crazy, it's never going back to normal. Home ownership affordability has significantly deteriorated since 2021, despite recent interest rate relief, suggesting the underlying structural pressures on home ownership will persist. A growing share of households will be structurally excluded from this channel of wealth accumulation. In other words, people trying to get ahead by building equity in a home, which is a classic Canadian thing to do, not going to happen for millions of Canadians, which is a tragedy of epic proportions, generational proportions. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Okay, who do we have next here on Getting Ahead, Treading Water, or Falling Behind? Is it Joe in Kitchener? Joe, are you there, Joe?
Hi, Rob. Yeah,
Hi,
we're
Joe.
getting behind. Yeah, we're behind, and since 10 years of the idiot clown. Here's a metric that you may want to add to your repertoire. We have 3-4 encampments, homeless encampments in Kitchener alone. I never saw that since before 10 years of the idiot clown. So that's one significant metric, and irrespective of the general inflation number, I don't think it captures the ridiculous prices of groceries and basic staples. Like I went to the bulk food store today to buy some stuff for my boys who live in my house that I can't sell because where are they going to live? So trying to find deals on stuff to stock the fridge and freezer for them, and $114 for a 10 kilogram box of Roma tomatoes. Looks like I'm not making tomato sauce anytime soon until I find a Mennonite who can grow the tomatoes cheaper than anybody else. You know what I'm saying? But
okay.
We're not getting ahead. We're behind. And my boys are making $35 and $40 an hour respectively, and they can't buy my house. They got no chance. So
Okay.
We're behind thanks to the idiot.
Gotcha.
10
Thanks,
years
Joe.
of the idiot clown.
Okay. Thank you. Well, it's the current prime minister who says Canadians are getting ahead because wages are increasing faster than the rate of inflation. But to your point, I raised this right off the top. I said 1.5 million Canadians unemployed, 120,000 Canadians stayed at homeless shelters last year, 120,000. 70,000 live rough every night. 2 million visits to the food bank every month. People making 115 grand a year can't buy a home. Rise of the permanent renter, economists are talking about here. To your point. Thank you. I think this will be the last call. The best for last is Tony in southern Alberta. Hello, Tony.
Yeah, we're falling behind. We're so far behind that we can never come ahead. What we need to do is go to the House of Commons and dump them all out in the street and say, now, see how you survive. And we'll let the janitor run the place because you people can't do your job and you're getting paid big money.
Okay. Set up an encampment for MPs on the front lawn of Parliament Hill, maybe?
Take them all and turf their ass out in the street and cut their wages back to what they say are normal wages in this country and see what they can survive on. And I'll tell you what, they'll be in the food banks.
Thank you. Thank you for all your calls. I think we took 30 today, which is usually the insanity level. It means this topic is smoking hot. If we take 30 calls over 2 hours of Talkback, the way our clock is set up and needing to take all those breaks. Let me see. Out of those 30 calls, nobody said Canadians are getting ahead. Nobody. Prime Minister says that. None of the callers to Talkback said that. Only 4 said treading water or things are about the same. 4. Not everybody got on the air. There were a few people who hung up before they got on the air. 5, 10, 15, 22 callers to Talkback today. At a 26, said Canadians are falling behind. Not scientific or anything, but it is a trend. I'm Rob Snow. Brand new topic tomorrow. Thanks for all your calls today. The latest breaking news next on News Radio.